y'all can hear me from this one. So yes, a lot of the world don't even know how to make simple eye contact. So we got to stop, thinking that it's other people, putting the blame out there in the world against everybody else. And we have to even circle back and ask ourselves, because sometimes a lot of things are happening and we ain't sit down like, you know what? Have something ever happened and you like, man, had I just listened or paid attention, I think they was trying to tell me that. You know why that is? Because most of the time we don't understand this. And I just want to tell y'all this for a second. I want y'all to think about this. Most of us don't realize that we have two eyes, right? We have two ears, we have two nostrils. And the one thing that we only seem to have one of, we run the most, which is our mouth. Right? Can't Queen A, clarity coach. But no, we tend to run our mouth. We don't truly sit and even listen to see if we're correct. We don't even truly sit and listen to see if somebody has a valid point. We don't even truly listen to see if maybe there's another way, or maybe, I could have did this, tweaked it, or whatever the case may be. Have you ever thought about the reason why you feeling doubt, you've been feeling like a lot of fear and in a lot of pain, is because that people ain't listening to you? A lot of times we like, they ain't listening to me. So we always tend to think that somebody's not listening to us, right? So we always ready to speak, to say something. I can't wait till they shut up because I'm gonna tell them this, right? But what if, just what if for a second, the problem is that we're so ready to say how it's the other person's fault instead of looking in the mirror and thinking about what is the blame that we have ourselves. Now, if we could take time to utilize our eyes more, right? Pay attention more, view more, our ears more, listen more, and then hush this, the one thing that we only got one of, be quiet, shut up. A lot of things you would not be feeling. You wouldn't be feeling a lot of fear. You wouldn't be feeling a lot of doubt. You wouldn't have a lot of, you wouldn't be a lot of, yeah, anxious. Why? Because you can quiet down and listen to yourself instead of worried about what's going on online. Okay? See, the problem is a lot of us don't want to be quiet. A lot of us don't want nobody telling us what to do. We like, I don't want nobody telling us what to do and this and that. But on the flip side, what if the problem is you've been allowing everybody to tell you what to do instead of yourself? You like, they ain't letting them tell me what to do. But guess what? The whole world has been telling you what to do, whether you like it or not. For most people, the whole world has been telling you what to do. TikTok has been telling you what to do. Facebook has been telling you what to do. YouTube has been telling you what to do. But what if, just what if for a second? Hey, loves, I see y'all on there saying, hey, my loves, hi, my royal family. And if you don't know me, my name is Queen A. I'm your clarity coach. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel for more clarity. Now, let's jump into it. But what if for a second you could learn how to tune into yourself by just utilizing one simple principle that a lot of people don't think about, which is active listening. I'm not talking about active listening to what's going on around the world. I'm not talking about active listening to the news, because we're good at that, right? Everybody's good at being a detective. Everybody's good at being the next news person, reporter. That's the perfect word for it, right? But nobody tends to be good at telling their self, right? Telling their self. We're so worried about everybody else telling us what to do that we ain't even worried about why we ain't telling ourselves what to do. Why we're not inspiring ourselves. Why we're not building our own confidence. Why we don't give ourselves clarity. I'm going to tell you why. Because we're not actively listening to ourselves. We're actively listening to everything. We're actively listening to everybody else. We're actively listening to every radio station. We're actively listening to every hot, dumb challenge that comes out. But when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to building our own confidence, when it comes to giving ourselves motivation, when it comes to what? Being our own inspirators. So I was speaking. I was speaking at a 4-H agriculture movement that we was having here in Cincinnati. It was an event. And the first question I asked at this event as I was speaking, I asked the audience who inspired them. And if anybody's on here, drop it in the comments. Who inspires you? Who inspires you? So as I'm going around, people are raising their hands, and I'm calling on different people, and I'm, listening to their answers about who inspires them. And the main thing I heard was, my mama, and they was pointing out people in the room that inspired them, and some famous people that inspired them. They never thought about what came next. What came next was me asking them. That's exactly the problem right there. Why can't we inspire ourselves? Why didn't not one person who was in that room raise their hand to say, who inspired? And I said, matter of fact, the exact question I said, who has inspired you the most just this week? I didn't say your life. I said, who has inspired you the most just this week? And people raised their hands, but not one person said themselves. Think about that for a second. Not one person in the room said themselves. Now, I know some people don't even understand how, important to me that is and what that says about the world that we're living in. To me, Queen A, for the clarity coach, what that said was, we don't believe in ourselves. We have become so detached from ourselves that the only people that we can think of when somebody asks who inspires us is somebody else. Nobody thought to say myself. You know why? Because we're not actively listening to ourselves. If we was actively listening to ourselves, somebody in that room would have been inspired by themselves. Think about that. If you actively listening to yourself, because if you know what actively listening is, right, that means that you are giving yourself eye contact. Because remember, you have to give yourself eye contact. So you should be looking in the mirror. When you go to the bathroom, look in the mirror. Make it a habit of telling yourself how much you can, what you can do, right? And if you're actively listening to yourself, you should already know what your values are, your morals, your principles, your goals. And if you're actively listening to yourself, every decision and choice that you make should be aligned with what? Your values, your principles, and your goals. If you are actively listening to yourself. And that means that if you are actively listening to yourself, let me tell you right here, and this is one of the things I said, a lot of people don't even think about this. If you are actively listening to yourself, you don't have to question what you got to do for the day. You don't have to question, or if you're actively listening to yourself, you don't have to put on Facebook, which dress should I wear, the red or the blue? Because you're actively listening to yourself. Think about that for a second. We have people that will say, should I wear the red dress or the blue dress? And then maybe you want to wear the blue dress, but everybody else said the red dress. So you decided to put on the red dress, but in reality, you wanted to wear the blue dress. Yes, I dumb it down just that simple. Because in just that moment right there, we don't even understand how we have detached from ourselves and we have put that attachment, right, of self confidence into somebody else and other people because we're not actively listening to ourselves. We're not worried no more about what we think, about what we like, about what our values is, about what our principles are, and about what our goals are. Now we're becoming a society of where I don't want to hurt their feelings. So that means that I don't, even if I have to ignore my own dreams, even if I have to ignore my own values, even if I have to ignore my own principles, right? Just what if you didn't have to do that no more? What if you could listen to yourself so you don't be miserable? A lot of people living in self-doubt because they're worried about what everybody else is doing. Do you know that since we have been online, more people are more stressed? People are talking about killing themselves more and more since we have been online. Why do y'all think that is? I could tell you right now, from what I know, people want to kill themselves more and more because they're worried about what everybody else thinks about them. People are not trying to hurt themselves because of what they think of themselves. They want to hurt themselves because they worried about the world accepting them. And that's why, since we have had Facebook and since we have had this magnificent tool we call online, we have had more murders, we have had more suicides, we have had more deaths. And that's why when I go speak and I ask a question about who inspires you, not one person said me. Not one person said I inspired myself today. So you mean to tell me that not one person in that room got up just maybe a minute earlier? See, I dumb it down. It doesn't matter. If you can dumb things down and say, you know what? I actually got up 5 minutes earlier today than I did yesterday, right? Maybe you're trying to get up at 8 and you getting up at 9. And you like, you know what? I got up at 8:55 instead of 9. Now, to a lot of people, that might not be a lot. But if you listen to yourself, your inner you will be like so proud. Hey, that's 5 minutes. Tomorrow, let's shoot for 8:45. But we have to get clarity on our values, our principles, and our goals, right? And focus on the fact over the feeling and take ownership. These are things we have to do if you want to learn how to listen to yourself and stop listening to everybody else out there. People ask me what scares me. What scares me the most nowadays is that we're living in a society where people can't even think for themselves. They can't even answer for themselves. Matter of fact, they can't even give their own principles and their own values to themselves. They want to know what the world value, what the world principles is, and what the world goals is. And that's what they base it on. That's why when you look around, you see everybody coming up with the same challenges. You look around, everybody want to sell the same thing. Everybody want to look the same way, right? Everybody want to sound the same way. But just what if you could be different? See, clarity is about being different. And if you don't know me, I am an author, right? I became an author of my own book within 1 year of me leaving my 9 to 5 because what? I had clarity on my vision, my dreams, my goals, my principles. I started focusing on the fact over the feeling of what I felt like. Forget what I feel like. The fact is, if I want to get this done, then this is what I got to do. I started taking ownership of my own actions. That's how you actively listen to yourself. That's why it's called actively listening. Because most people don't understand that when you actively listening, it's an action. Actively listening ain't just you sitting there like, oh my gosh, you know what? I hear it. It is there. Did you hear it? That's not actively listening to yourself. When you actively listen to yourself, you will understand. Let me tell you, you will stop recognizing yourself. I learned to listen to myself so much now that even today, things has happened that I know I would have normally spazzed out about all types of things. But guess what? Due to me, what? Having clarity on my vision, my principles, and my goals, and me focusing on a fact over fiction, right? And me taking ownership, I deal with things differently now because I learned how to actively listen to myself. I'm not worried about listening to what everybody else in the world thinks. I'm not worried about thinking about what the people on, YouTube think of me, Facebook think of me. I'm not thinking about, oh, you know what? Well, I got to get 100,000 views, or I got to get 100,000 likes, or I'm going to spaz out. That's not my goal. Do you know what my goal is? Let me explain to somebody on here who might not know what Queen A goal is. My goal is just to plant a seed every time I go live. If I could plant one seed in somebody that's helping them overcome their self-doubt and build their confidence with clarity, I'm doing good. I didn't had a successful day if I didn't did just that right there. See, a lot of people want to start big. Y'all starting big and then trying, no, I'm okay. I'm okay with getting 5 views here, 10 views. That's fine with me. Because I can guarantee you, out of them 5 views or them 10 views, I can guarantee that I planted at least one seed. I can guarantee that. There ain't no way 10 people watching me or 5 people watching me and I didn't plant one seed. Ain't no way. Because I know for a fact what I teach is the principles that everybody needs, all humankind need to build their confidence with clarity. You telling me that you ain't got to know how to respect yourself to build confidence? I beg to differ. You telling me you don't need to know how to run through your fears if you want to build your confidence? I beg to differ. This is why I became a clarity coach. And by the time I left from that speech, you know what happened? When I left that speech, people was walking up to me. They was walking up to me, like, Queen A, I never thought about it like that. I never thought about it. I never thought about when you asked who inspired us that I could say myself. I never thought that just because I got up 10 minutes earlier that that's an inspiration and I should look up to that. I never thought that just me telling myself that I can do it is something I should be proud of. You know why you didn't think that? Because you don't know how to actively listen to yourself. You don't know how to actively listen to yourself. You've been actively listening to Facebook. You've been actively listening to your mama. You've been actively listening to your daddy. You've been actively listening to everybody else but yourself. Now, this don't mean be overconfident, okay? Because we got some people that you can become overconfident too. See, when you become confident, that's why I say I'm a clarity coach and not a confidence coach. Because I don't want to teach you how to be overly confident. You can be overly confident to where you only believe in yourself. You don't think you need no help and you have all the answers. That's dangerous because no person has all the answers. Nobody can do it by themselves. So that's why I didn't say I'm Queen A, the confidence coach. No, because if I'm building your confidence, I want to do it with clarity. That way, when you go out here, I know that you're building confidence with clarity as well. You're not making people overly confident. No, I might want to make you get, be overly clear. That's perfectly fine. Because if you overly clear, guess what? That means that you're very clear, crystal clear on your visions. You're crystal clear on your goals. You're crystal clear on who you are. But this is why I do what I do. Because see, yes, it's coaches out here. I see them all the time, and I love all my coaches. We all have our own little, thing that we do. That's why basketball's coach can teach you how to dribble, but he can't teach you with clarity, right? He can teach you how to dribble the ball with clarity, but he can't teach you how to build your mind with clarity. It's a difference. He's not a clarity coach. He's a basketball coach, a football coach, right? A military coach, whatever kind of coach you want to say, a jump rope coach. I don't know, a cake coach. But I'm a clarity coach for a reason. Why? Because I help you think with clarity. But I help you think and understand how to build your own confidence, how you can believe in yourself, how you can understand that you don't need everybody else in order for you to become the person that you deserve to be. And you know why I plant seeds? I plant seeds because if you look outside, you know the strongest thing outside? Do y'all know the strongest thing is the seeds outside? Meaning them trees you looking at, they strong. Them trees start off as seeds, but they withstand everything, all type of weather, right? Think about it. Trees withstand everything. Rain, sleet, snow, tornadoes, floods. We can go on and on and on. They might destroy it, like take they might hurt it, but it don't really ever really destroy a tree. Right? Unless you gotta take the root up out of there. That take a lot. But even then, do you know if you take a root from that tree and you replant it from that same tree, it don't matter how destroyed it was, if you take a root and you take it from there and you plant it in the dirt and you take care of it, right? The correct dirt, correct soil for that tree, it will still grow again. That's why I always use the term seeds, because that's what I am building out here. I'm building gardens, right? I want to see you blossom, but I don't want to see you blossom into a rose. No. Why didn't I say a rose? Think about it. Why didn't I say I want to see you become a rose bush? No, I don't. I want to see you become the forest. Why? Because the forest lasts. The trees, they last. Ain't nothing wrong with a rose bush. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying what I'm planting is bigger than that. And this is why I do what I do. So feel free to subscribe to this channel for more clarity. This is what I do. I'm a very different type of coach, right? Now, for those who don't know me, get to know me because you'll be seeing me more. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. But no, I want you to start thinking about yourself. But you have to actively listen to yourself. Actively ask yourself questions. What do you believe in? Who do you want to be? What are your values? Right? What are your principles? What do you stand for? These are things you need to know. Because if you don't know it, I could tell you now. That's why you're making your decisions based off of the world. You make your decisions based off of Kim Kardashian and Cardi B and all them. Because you ain't clear on who you are. That's simple as that. You ain't clear on who you are. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Don't come with Queen Acres, you ain't clear with that. I'm just playing no. All right. But I'm just being honest with y'all. And I hope y'all got something from this. I know somebody got something from this. I'm always planting to see. But subscribe for more clarity. That's all I got for y'all. Feel free to, if y'all want to plant a seed to help fund this garden, the description is it. The link is in the description. Feel free. You can plant seeds, donate to the cause to help me. Feel free to build this garden because it is growing and it's growing very strongly. And I would love your help to help me get there. All right. And if nobody else loves you, that's all I have for you. Share this with somebody else and let's help plant a seed and grow this garden, this forest. Love you. Mwah.